Uh, I want to start out by summarizing what's happened up until now. And it's important to note that I've only had 2 events. The first one was in '96 when I was visualizing color fields, just imagining them, putting them up in my imagination. And after some weeks of this, the subconscious started participating by running sort of the same thing in the dream state, just dreaming about while I was asleep, dreaming about putting up little color cards, and that was the first event. Now, the thing is, I've been doing this for 30 years now. That was back in about '96. And I haven't done very much. I've never tried to push any of this. I wasn't trying to do anything with the subconscious when it started. I was trying to learn something about painting. I was too lazy to paint using colors, so I thought I would just visualize it. And, of course, the subconscious picked up on it and started dreaming it. And that changed my focus of attention. But I never pushed anything. I never really worked at this. The only thing I worked at was learning how to paint and then study the history of painting to figure out what it was in the context of history that I was painting. And that took me through to February of 2022, which was about, almost 30 years later, 25 or 6 years later, when I ran into just the people putting up the astral plane videos and lucid dreaming videos, and then I learned of how they got in on that by putting these vibrations in their music to vibrate different parts of the brain. And that came out of, I made a mistake. I said it was the FBI, but it was the CIA that were doing this Monroe Institute investigations. That's what that came out of. And I also ran into Carl Jung, and this is all on YouTube. I was skeptical of using for the astral plane, and I had no idea really what lucid dreaming was. But I found out in a real big hurry when I tried it that these people really are doing OBE, out-of-body experiences, in the astral plane. And of course, Carl Jung is just given a different, a more academic description of what I had done accidentally, which is just to visualize. And I was doing it mostly in the evenings before I went to sleep, of course, when it was dark, and that was when it was easiest to do these visualizations. Okay, so, and that was now, it's been 4 years since then. Those are I'm starting now what I hope will be a third kind of event. That's what I want to start to get into tonight. But that's over 30 years, 2 events. I haven't pushed anything. I haven't tried to work at this. I have things that I wanted to do that I tried, and the subconscious had things it wanted to do, and it tried, and we both succeeded to more or less extents. So it remained interesting, and I kept it up. But the whole thing is just something that happened, and the importance of that is to realize that this is not anything like practicing yoga or meditation or trying to do anything at all. It's just being alert and willing to pick it up when I ran into it, just walked into it. stumbled into it, and when I saw it was happening, I picked it up, and I've been working with it ever since. Okay. But the most important thing about that is that I've never tried to do it. It just happened. And what that means is that it's a natural event. It's something that the mind does, just like any other aspect of the biological aspects of living. You know, you eat, you defecate, you sleep, you go through normal physical activities during the day, you go to sleep and you dream at night, and this is part of that. And so I also never pushed the SC as subconscious. I want to call it SC, and never tried to push anything. It just went along with what happened. Okay. So it's a happening of a natural event. It's not contrived. At the end, I want to say something about the SC. For those first 20 some odd years, I didn't have any idea. Excuse me. I didn't have any idea what the SC was, and so I just called it the Giver of Dreams. That was the only name I had for it, and that's all it was. It was something that I supposed was some, mental mechanism of the mind that produced dreams. These videos that it played in during the nighttime. But after running into this astral plane and taking an astral trip, and also I devised a test I'll go into later to try the lucid dreaming part of it, and I also experienced several lucid dreamings. So I was able to prove to myself beyond any doubt that those people are serious and that they know their business and they are indeed doing what they say they're doing. Although I may have some qualms about what they think about what they're doing and how they're doing it. They have a different perspective than I do, which I have a different perspective, I think, than anybody else, or mostly anybody else that's ever published anything about it. So that's why I want to take the responsibility to put it forward, so it's something that is a sort of archive. Anyway, after having the experience of the astral plane and some of the dreams, I've given that before. I don't know if I've given this. That took a period of 2 or 3 weeks for it to formalize. But at the end of it, the SC gave a dream in which he's doing Michael Jackson's moonwalk on a sidewalk, this solid ice. So it's kind of like a bastardized flying dream. But he's just moonwalking along and playing music, a well-dressed man by, I think, ZZ Top, as the background of the music for the dream. And this shows a lot about his personality. And when this happens, this is when I had to give him the same status that I have for myself, for being a persona with his own quirks and personality dispositions, the same that I have. So it's just a little me on the other side. He's an alter ego on the other side of the wall between sleeping and waking. Although I probably have said that as a result of this experience, he doesn't any longer stay behind that wall. He had lowered himself. Before, it was when I was projecting all this, doing the painting exploration, it was as if it was projected out of my head, you know, somewhere in the maybe the visual center behind my eyes, in front or the back part of my head. It was projecting out. After this, he lowered into the chest, what the yogas call the chakra, and remained there, waking and sleeping, and not always in sleeping, but mostly. But also, I could feel his presence during the waking hours. I noticed before this, throughout the earlier, bigger part of the experiment, that he can communicate during the waking hours. He does this just by projecting ideas that come out of the dreams during the night. So he can augment what he's showing in the dream state by giving me information during the day. And I recognize it when I receive it for what it is. Okay, so then that's when he becomes, and he is showing off here. He thinks he's being a little cocky, which I allow him to do. And it is one of his personal dispositions. And more than just a little bit of humor. Okay. But that is where we come to until recent times. Something else has happened during the natural course of events, and the story picks up a new bent. Get it here. And I want to say something about general principles. Before I go any further, before I even start in on this, on the nature of what the reality is. All entities, well, first what has happened is that I've realized on YouTube, I've run into these videos that they're running on physics. I never had any idea about all subjects relating to academic physics. It started with Sabine, can't think of her last name, who is a YouTuber on for mostly the fundamental aspects of physics, string theory, and she goes through some of the problems and the events and so forth. But so what I want to do is to feed this to the subconscious and see if I can get him to comment on maybe some serious aspects of space as it's seen in the real world or in the world of academics. The Euclidean space, Minkowski space, and even Hilbert space for quantum mechanics, which is a mathematical space based on set theory. And not actually physical space, although it does also relate because the quantum energies, electromagnetic, and all the other kind of energies, and the probability function side is manifest in the actual same space. Hopefully, the general relativistic space, which is in addition to the Minkowski space and Euclidean space, you have the general relativistic space. Okay, but before even talking about that kind of stuff, I need to point out that all the entities that I use, when I use a phrase like that, Euclidean space or Minkowski space, or I put up any mathematical formalism, I'm not using it I'm not using the physics as physics, and I'm not using the mathematics as mathematics. I am introducing an idiom that can be used in the conversation between the subconscious and myself. It's the same as when it first started out, and he was doing this thing where the difference between the left eye and the right eye, if made into a single sphere, would have a certain thickness, and he could put all the conscious mechanisms that he's aware of, visual mechanisms, inside the thickness of that solid sphere, or that shell, the solid shell on that sphere, and then he would be inside of that and looking through the two surfaces of those skins of the thickness. He could use that as an idiom in which to point out observations on the total conscious mechanism. And so he was using that as an idiom. There's no real justification for using something like that, but it gave him an idiom that he could dream and just show his view and show the conscious mechanisms that he's using inside the shell of that sphere, single sphere. So, the other thing I want to say is that now this has to do with reality. So the reality that I'm presenting is not the reality of physics or the reality of philosophy or the ancients or anything like that. These are simply idioms. And so far as realities go, the two aspects that are important is in the biblical setting, there's the tree of life, and it's protected by a flaming sword. Okay, so that is the essence of cosmic knowledge in the primal sense is protected. And there are a lot of things that don't fall within the ken of man, and that has to be respected. That's one of two essential aspects of reality. The other is the rock man, which comes out of a number of stories. Me and my Arrow, that's a musician from back in the 70s. I can't think of his name, but he had a rock man in the Oblio. Ran into a rock man in his travels, and it also appears in a sort of child's fairy tale. They made 2 or 3 movies out of it. There was also a rock man in that. It was, I think, devouring the universe, whatever. But the point to the rock man is that he sees what he wants to see, and he hears what he wants to hear. And that is an essential feature of seeing. I tend to believe what I see, but I have to recognize that I only see what I want to see, and that's also true of the subconscious. And we only hear what we want to hear, so we have to be aware of that whenever we're considering the possibility of the fact that we're dealing with an actual reality. Okay, and that's it. So everything, any entity is an literal idiom as a part of a conversation, and we respect the biblical limitations and the rock man, and that's it. That's all of it. Okay, the new discovery, and what I'm going to get in here to do, and hopefully I'm going to give just sort of the parting shots, how it gets kicked off, is in 2025, just for just a number of months ago, I became aware, again, it's YouTube, and it's all these physics people, Hossenfelder, Sabine Hossenfelder is her name. But they're also doing Richard Feynman. They're doing an IA presentation of his lectures, or supposedly lectures he might make, and a bunch of other people. And what I just want to get a tail end of this, because it's given me a new set of dreams here in just the last few weeks. In fact, just the last few days now. I want to go ahead and give it one of the fresh in my mind. So one of these is Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammeroff. Stuart Hammeroff is an anesthesiologist, and Roger Penrose, of course, a physicist. And what they've come across is in working with inert gases as anesthesia, they came across this idea of tryptophan, microtubules, tubulin, it forms tubulin microtubules in the brain, and also in the cells in the body. And it sets up a sort of crystalline structure, because it is, as the tubules have a tubular structure, and it sets up a crystalline structure, and they propose and are doing experiments on the fact that that is how those inert gases can be used as anesthetics to make you lose consciousness, because they affect those microtubules. And my sign's getting messed up here, but I got to go ahead and use it anyway, because it's all I got. And in particular, Federico Fagan is also a physicist. I'm trying to get this information as accurately as I can. Hopefully I won't make too many mistakes. They found that these tubules fluoresce, and they do what's called super bursts, I think, or something like it. They give out bursts of bright illumination as fluorescent. And of course, they're all in all the cells of the body. Now here's the thing about that. In working in the space, the new space that is the base space for the astral plane, in the astral plane itself, the illusion of being there, let's call it an illusion, if you like, is of a transparent, sort of an empty body, but the skin is glowing with a silver white, a layer of white light. And since then, I've begun doing the musical forms and exploring the subspace, what you would call the subspace, to the astral plane. Out of this chakra in the chest, the subconscious projects, beginning with the color field that Raphael uses in La Valletta. That's what originally started me on this way back in '96. And he projects into it something that looks like a farm machine or something. It's a structure of red metal-looking tubules that extends into it. but nothing else. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't see anything, but the SE is using it. And then he shrinks that up and uses it at about the size of maybe a baseball in the head, and listening to the music. He used that to gain access to the lucid dreaming end of that music. And so the check for the lucid dreaming was a different test than the check for the astral plane itself, and their claims were verified by that. Okay, then it goes into projecting music into this new space out of the chakra, and it begins exploring how to maximize different aspects of it, more complex forms. As I said, go using just a part of the head that you use to project for the first 25 years or so, I used to project just in the dream space, and the M4 Minkowski space. It uses only a small part of the head of the brain to project that. I can tell that. But when I go to try to manipulate the space, this new space is more than three-dimensional. It's probably infinitely dimensional. It's unbelievably dynamic. The space itself, the empty space itself. But I found that in order to maximize, I had to expand the amount of the use of the head and the chest, and I could see it as it comes out of, as it is projected out of the body, it's projected out of, from a small point in the head, it expands to the entire head, and I can feel myself using my entire brain, and then the chakra, the entire chest. And the more sophisticated and powerful music machine that I was projecting, the larger and the deeper, you can go into depth as easily as you can go into very large spatial projections, and you're dealing with a dynamical point by point in the space. You're dealing with dynamic possibilities that are greater than three-dimensional, and they're also new and different than what you can do in normal space. That I had to use more and more of my body till eventually I was using my entire body. I could see myself projecting, feel myself projecting out of the entire volume of my body. And even after that, you get the idea of you morph into different shapes and sizes, and ultimately into more mechanical. So I went from being just a normal person to a four-legged beast, and then to like a sort of super saucer-shaped four-legged animal, into then just arbitrary volumes in the space and projecting out of that. Now the idea is, the perception of it is that if he's got these tubules that are in all the cells of your body, and he's right about it triggering consciousness, having to do with consciousness, and that's a mechanism for all of that xenomorphing of the body and everything, and using the entire body. That would be how they do it. It would be using these microtubules that are in all the cells of the body. Okay. Then I have the meat of this. There's 3 presentations that the SE has given me over the last, I guess, 2 weeks. After absorbing Penrose and Frederico Fagan's some of their takes on things on YouTube. The SE is taken to giving short dreams early in the morning as I'm beginning to wake up, and he gives an immediate response. The first morning after being exposed to this, he gives a dream that is a protest, and I had watched on YouTube. It's really funny. He's become very focused on picking this stuff up. On YouTube shorts, I had seen where this woman had pranked her husband by getting a plastic fake chin put onto a real chin and made it up like it was a real chin. And then she told him that she had been to the spa or the beautician and had her face injected. And of course, she looked like something like out of Elephant Man. Just blew him away with it. Well, in the video, it looked like it was a real chin, and she just blown it up. Got it filled up. And so he does the same thing in the dream with his head. He's got this similar device that he puts on the front of the head, and he's running into this. There's 3 or 4 guys standing around. He's running into them, and he's protesting because what these people have done, both Fagan and I can't even think of his name, and I just was looking at him. Roger Penrose. What they're doing, and it did get past me, I didn't think of it, is they're speaking of this as a mechanism for conscious itself, and they're negating the whole normal waking experience consciousness. In other words, there's conscious and then there's subconscious. They're 2 different things, and they're ignoring the normal conscious state and going directly to, at least this is the way the subconscious, they're forgetting about all the rest of it, the conscious part of normal waking life, of which every one of us should be pretty damn familiar. And the SC is protesting this. It's, what are you doing? You've forgotten the bigger part of the conscious experience, which is, the subconscious might be quantum, and a big part of quantum consciousness might be in the subconscious, some of it also in the regular conscious, but you also have to keep in mind the normal regular consciousness, which is classical and same as in computers. And that's the way he does it. He just comes running out, and because these guys are all standing out in the field, and he's just running at him, saying, "No, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And that's kind of a very informal, even risque way for him to do that. It's very informal, but again, that's his personality. But he's showing that he's immediately going to respond. Okay, the following night, he does another different kind of response, because I think he realizes what he's doing is very unsophisticated here. It's a good way to emphasize the point and to show his alarm that they would do this, and then I wouldn't catch it also. But for that day, I'd been on YouTube Shorts again, and I'd seen one of these, I'm sure it's AI produced, where you got what looks like a 7 or 8 year old girl that's sitting in a public place, I guess on the street playing a piano. And you got other musicians around, and everybody's standing around saying, "My God, I can't believe she's doing that." But the SC picks up on that and puts himself in that position. He's sitting at a piano, So it's a very sophisticated setting. It involves, some super musicianship, as some famous classical piece the girl was playing, but he's producing just sort of a statement of the enigma that he now faces. On the top of the underside of the cover of the piano is a mirror, and in the dream, he's just opening up the piano and beginning to look in the mirror to see what is there. And it's the paradigm for what he's facing. We don't know that anything can happen, but he's contraposing the earlier roughness or shabbiness of his presentation with one that's equally overly stated as a cultural serious situation. And then he does one more. A couple of days later, I was watching a movie, and it was about a mystery about these guys were going to an island, and they showed it, and the movie opens up, he's taking a boat trip out to the island, and I'm trying to figure out where it is situated. I thought, well, it must be Louisiana, looking at the boat and the motor and people that were in it. But the water did not look like a bayou. It wasn't a bayou. I don't know what kind of waterway it was, but I couldn't figure it out. And that's all it was. That's a very short, minor thing to have happened during the course of the day. Just playing, entertaining myself with my cell phone. And he does a dream in which he's riding in a taxi, and he's talking with the taxi driver, and they're looking at the countryside, and it's water and trees and stuff. But he says it's Thailand. Not Thailand, Indonesia. And so he's talking, the taxi driver's explaining to him stuff about Indonesia, and he's just bullshit with him, and that's it, that's the dream. The point of that is the fineness of the focus that the SE is applying to pull that out of the day it's almost a nothing burger, and present a dream of it just as a playback to me, and it just shows the sharpness of his focus here. And so that's where we stand. I'm going to keep watching these YouTube videos on physics, and maybe I'll learn something. Maybe it's something that SC can. What I would like to see happen is I've always taken the attitude that, and I believe it is, these spaces that we're in, the spaces that these people are using to do their astral planing in, they're real space. In nature, there's no division between the spiritual space and the ordinary physical space that we live in. I think that's just what I think. And the reason I believe that is because that's what I believe that Van Gogh, I'm convinced that's the way Van Gogh saw what he was doing. And so I remain true to his aesthetic, and that's as far as that goes. Okay, so I wanted to set that up, and I want to make sure that really that people realize, that watch this, realize that I'm not going to be trying to preach physics or science or anything serious like that. All that's going into the mix, just strictly as idioms that we can use, and it gives the SC and I something to do. Because you got all that space to yourself, it's sometimes hard to figure out something that's meaningful to do, especially if